Hello, this is Andy Schaefer's CAM Application Engineer at Maya. Today I've got a presentation on the IPW, or In-Process Workpiece, in NX CAM. Our customers have frequently a couple of questions about the IPW, which I'm going to address in this presentation. The first is, how do you reference an IPW from an external NX CAM part? And the second question is, how do you use the new Composite IPW capability in our newer versions of NX CAM? Before we start the presentation, let me explain what's already been created in this example file. I have an assembly here with 3 components, and the cavity component is made up of 2 bodies. You can see the dark gray and the light gray. Then I've got just a left insert and a right insert. Each of these bodies has had its concave surface here roughed in another file, and you see those files across the top: the left insert setup, cavity setup, and right insert setup. So they're all roughed in those files. The goal here is then to take those roughed components, assemble them in the machine tool, and then do the finish pass with all the components in place. So we want to create a composite IPW so we can see what that IPW looks like before we start machining. Okay, let's get started. We'll go to the Operation Navigator, and when I double click on the workpiece, the first thing you'll see is that I've already defined the part. It's the 4 bodies have been defined here. Okay, let's go to specify blank, and we'll begin creating our composite IPW using these referenced IPWs. So of all the choices here, when you want to reference an external IPW, you do need to choose this option, IPW in Process Workpiece. The next thing to do is select source for IPW. Now, if we had other workpieces in this file, they'd be listed here and we could copy an IPW from them, from the work part. That's not an option, of course, so I need to pull the bar down, and typically you'll be browsing for another file, but in my case I've got them loaded already in the session, so I can just select them. Once I make that selection, you see the workpieces in that file are listed here for me, and I can expand and see the operations, but selecting the operations doesn't really get you anywhere. You need to select the workpiece that IPW belongs to. Also, you cannot select multiple workpieces. You can't hold your Shift key down and select 2. So I'm going to select cavity left, click OK. And now to see that, I'm going to hit Update Local IPW from Source. Before I do that, let me explain the positioning type. The part positioning type relies on the fact that here in this assembly, I'm referencing that cavity component. And the cavity setup file where I did the roughing is also referencing that same component. That lets NX peek inside, look at the coordinate systems, and map the IPW to the correct position in this file. So now we'll hit the update button and watch that occur. Okay, there's the in-process workpiece, and it's in the correct location. Okay, we need to get our next IPW. So when we're creating a composite IPW, the thing you do next is hit Add New Set. You see the little new down here, creating a new row, and now we go through the same steps again. We select from the source for the IPW. It's still that cavity setup, but this time we choose cavity right. Okay, and here is that second IPW. Let's continue. We'll get another new set, and this will be the left insert. Let's update from source, and I get an error message indicating that there's a problem back in that workpiece. Let's not lose our work. I'll just click OK, and now we'll go to the left insert setup 1.prt, and I can see my problems right away. My operation's out of date. I don't have an up-to-date IPW. Both those conditions need to be met before you can map an IPW. Now, if you've loaded NX just by default, you won't have this IPW column. Here's how to add it. Just right-click, choose Columns, and then select IPW. It will be checked and you'll see it here. Okay, so now I just need to generate to make this up to date. And now the IPW is still out of date though, so I'll choose Toolpath, Verify. And I'm going to be double checking in the dialog box that in the IPW area, it does need to be set to save for this to work. You can have suppress animation checked or not checked, that doesn't matter. But once that's set to save, then hit the play button. That'll update your IPW. When we click OK, we see that listed here. Okay, I'll save that file. Let's return to that top level again. And we want to try updating one more time. Now we're successful. Great. Okay, so we've got one more to reference in. It's our right insert. Once again, hit Add New Set. And hit Update Local IPW from Source. And I'm getting another error message, but it's a different error message. This time it's saying that it can't reference the part, so the part positioning type will not work here. The other option is to use CSYS, and here's why this sometimes can occur. There can actually be several reasons. For instance, you might be wanting to reference in an IPW from another revision of this part, or you might break the link in that upstream file so you can do some other modeling work or something, and so now NX can no longer find its way back to the component to use part positioning type. So although there are several possibilities for why part positioning won't work, the CSYS type positioning is a great solution for all of those situations. What it does is allow you to create a CSYS at this level, at our top level, and then another CSYS down at that reference part level. It just aligns those two CSYS, and that's what it uses to position the IPW. Now, this is, however, one of the places where people get confused. Where we are in our top level part, we're going to be using IPW source and setting up the IPW. But people see the IPW position down here and think, well, should I be doing something here? No. Again, at the top level, we use the IPW source. Then we'll go back into our right insert setup file where this was originally roughed, and that's where we'll use IPW position. Okay, so let's complete this then. I'll choose specify CSYS and select the point back here. And it doesn't matter where the point is as long as you're consistent between the two files. All right, so I'll click OK. Now let's go into that right insert setup. And look at specify blank. And here I used the geometry option, so I just had a solid model here, and that was my blank. But down at the bottom, I see my IPW position option. So I'll change this to CSYS. And that's the correct position and the correct location for that coordinate system. Then I double check my operation is up to date and I have a valid IPW. Okay, I'll save the file and let's run back to that top level setup again. Okay, let's try update local IPW from source again, and that looks correct. Great. So there's a couple of steps yet to use the composite IPW and one other option to cover. Just creating a contrived situation here, but let's assume maybe that I'd done a weld repair on this part, and so that's what I've modeled this to kind of represent what that weld looks like that I need to clean up. Well, I've got an option here where I can add an additional body to that composite IPW. So I'll select it now. Now, I'm going to just click OK so that you can see that I have no option here to display my blank right now. And the reason is I forgot an important step. When I go back to specify blank again, you have to update the composite IPW from all sources. It's this button right here. And that takes all of the IPWs and creates a single faceted solid out of them that it can then use. Okay, there's my representation. I'll click OK. And now I've got a torch here for specify blank. And when I hit that, you see the composite IPW displayed here on the screen. So I'm ready to create my finish pass for my 4 pieces that will then be assembled into the machine tool. That's our presentation today on the use of referenced IPWs in NX-CAM, as well as our new composite IPW option. I hope this video was helpful to you, and thank you for taking the time to watch it.